When my ex-husband Tom walked into my office after 5 years of silence, I had to admire his timing. The Forbes article about my company had just hit newsstands that morning. "Rachel," he said, dropping into one of my visitor chairs without invitation. "You're looking successful." I kept my expression neutral, though my heart was racing. The last time I'd seen him, he'd been clearing out our apartment, telling me I was too ambitious and needed to focus on our marriage instead of chasing pipe dreams. "What do you want, Tom?" I asked, deliberately turning back to my computer screen. Can a man congratulate his ex-wife on her success? He gestured around my corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown. CEO of Phoenix Technologies. Pretty impressive for someone who used to be just a junior software developer. Just a junior software developer. The words echoed in my head, reminding me of all the times he'd dismissed my ideas, my ambitions, my potential. "That was 5 years ago," I reminded him. "Things change." "They certainly do." He pulled out his phone, bringing up the Forbes article. Rachel Chun, the rising phoenix of tech, nice headline. Even nicer numbers. 200 million in revenue last year? Stock price up 300% since the IPO. I said nothing, watching him scroll through the article. I knew what was coming. Tom had always been predictable. It was one of the reasons I'd been able to orchestrate his downfall so perfectly. "You know," he continued, trying to sound casual. "Technically, we were still married when you started this company." There it was. "We were separated," I corrected him. "And the divorce was finalized before Phoenix Technologies was even incorporated." "But the idea," he pressed, leaning forward. "The initial planning, the groundwork, that all happened while we were married. And California is a community property state." I finally looked at him properly. At 40, he still had the same boyish good looks that had attracted me 10 years ago. But now I could see the desperation behind his confident smile, the slight fraying at the cuffs of his otherwise impeccable suit. "Let me guess," I said. "You've fallen on hard times?" His smile faltered slightly. "The tech industry can be volatile. You know that better than anyone." I did know, especially since I was the one who'd made his particular corner of the industry extremely volatile. "What happened to your startup?" I asked innocently. "Last Mile Solutions was doing so well when you left me to focus on it full-time." His jaw tightened. "We had some setbacks. A major investor pulled out unexpectedly. Then our biggest client canceled their contract. Things snowballed from there." I nodded sympathetically, remembering each of those dominoes falling. I'd set them up carefully enough. "And now you think you deserve half of what I've built." I kept my voice level, professional. "It's only fair," he insisted. "We were married when you first started developing the core technology. I supported you, gave you a stable home while you worked on your pipe dreams." He had the audacity to use air quotes. "Supported me?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You mean when you told me I was wasting my time? When you said no one would ever invest in a woman's tech company? When you called my ideas derivative and unoriginal? I was trying to protect you from disappointment." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Look, I made mistakes. I admit that. But legally, I have a claim here." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder, one of many I'd prepared for this moment. "You might want to read this before you start talking about legal claims." He took the folder cautiously. "What is this?" "Evidence that while we were married, you were developing Last Mile's core technology using code you stole from your previous employer." The color drained from his face. That's not true." "Page 47, I said helpfully. "The side-by-side comparison of the code bases is particularly interesting, as is the email chain where you discussed how to hide the theft." His hands shook as he flipped through the pages. "How did you get this?" "I have my sources." I didn't mention that I was the anonymous source who'd tipped off his former employer, setting in motion the investigation that had led to Last Mile losing its investors. "Is this blackmail?" he demanded. "Insurance," I corrected him, "against exactly this kind of opportunistic behavior." He closed the folder slowly. "You've changed, Rachel." "No, I've grown. There's a difference." I stood up, smoothing my skirt. "Now, was there anything else?" "I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. "This isn't over," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Actually, it is." I pressed a button on my desk phone. "Sandra, could you please show Mr. Chen out? And make sure security has his photo. He won't be admitted to the building again." As my assistant led him away, I watched him through the glass walls of my office. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Nothing like the man who'd once made me feel so insignificant. But this was just the beginning. Tom thought he'd found a way to cash in on my success. He had no idea that I'd spent the last 5 years methodically destroying his career, using my growing influence to close doors, withdraw investments, and dismantle everything he'd built. And he certainly didn't know about phase 2 of my plan. My phone buzzed with a text from Sandra. Package arrived from Shadow Valley Ventures. I smiled. Right on schedule. Tom was about to learn that the pipe dreams he'd dismissed had turned into his worst nightmare. And the anonymous investor who'd been systematically destroying his life? She was just getting started. Tom lasted exactly 2 days before he figured out something was wrong. Ms. Chun, Sandra's voice came through my intercom. Mr. Chun is in the lobby, demanding to see you. He's quite agitated. I switched to the security feed on my computer, watching Tom argue with the guards. His tie was loose, his perfect hair disheveled. Send him up. And call Marcus from legal. 5 minutes later, Tom burst into my office, waving his phone. What did you do? You'll have to be more specific. I motioned for him to sit, but he remained standing, practically vibrating with anger. Shadow Valley Ventures, he spat. They just pulled their offer to invest in my new startup. Said they'd received concerning information about my business practices. I kept my expression neutral, even as satisfaction coursed through me. That sounds unfortunate. Unfortunate? It's sabotage. He slammed his hands on my desk. First last mile, now this. Every time I start to rebuild, something happens. Investors pull out, contracts disappear, partnerships fall through. The tech industry can be volatile. I quoted his words from 2 days ago. You know that better than anyone. This isn't about the industry. This is about you. His face was red now. You're behind this somehow. You and that mysterious Shadow Valley Ventures. I opened my laptop, turning it to face him. On the screen was the Shadow Valley Ventures website, showing their impressive portfolio of tech investments. You think I control a billion-dollar venture capital firm? I think, he stopped, staring at the screen. At the list of partners. At one name in particular. Caroline Wong, he whispered. Now we were getting somewhere. Your former co-worker, I said helpfully. The one you passed over for promotion 5 times because she was too aggressive in meetings. The one who quit after you took credit for her cloud computing breakthrough. What does she have to do with this? Caroline is a founding partner at Shadow Valley Ventures. I smiled, along with several other women who've had similar experiences in the tech industry. Women like you? His eyes narrowed. Oh no. I stood up, enjoying the way he stepped back. I'm not just a partner. I founded Shadow Valley Ventures. Built it from the ground up while Phoenix Technologies was still in its infancy. That's impossible. Shadow Valley Ventures has been around for 5 years, I finished for him. Ever since a certain software developer decided his wife was too ambitious and needed to focus on being a better partner. He sank into a chair, the truth finally dawning. You're the anonymous founder. The one no one's ever seen. The one who's been systematically investing in or destroying tech companies based on how they treat women in the industry. I walked around my desk. Would you like to guess how many of your former female employees now work for companies in our portfolio? This is insane, he muttered. You can't just what? Build a venture capital firm specifically designed to support women in tech? Or use that same firm to ensure men like you never get another chance to steal credit, suppress talent, or dismiss dreams as pipe dreams? The door opened and Marcus from legal entered, right on cue. You asked to see me, Ms. Chun? Yes. I handed him a folder, different from the one I'd shown Tom 2 days ago. Could you please explain to Mr. Chun exactly what will happen if he pursues any legal action regarding Phoenix Technologies? Marcus adjusted his glasses. Certainly. Mr. Chun, we have documented evidence of your intellectual property theft from your previous employer, your attempts to hide company assets during your divorce proceedings, and your systematic discrimination against female employees at Last Mile Solutions. That's not, you can't prove. We can prove all of it, Marcus continued smoothly. Ms. Chun has been very thorough in her documentation. Additionally, any claim you might make regarding Phoenix Technologies' early development would open you to countersuits from your former employer regarding the stolen code you used at Last Mile. Tom's face had gone from red to white. You've been planning this for 5 years? Longer, I corrected him. Remember when you found me working late all those nights? When you accused me of caring more about my career than our marriage? I wasn't just working on Phoenix's code. I was documenting everything. Every stolen idea, every suppressed promotion. every woman whose career you damaged. Why? His voice cracked. Why go to all this trouble? Because men like you don't just fail. They find new victims, new companies to infect with their toxicity. I sat on the edge of my desk. Unless someone stops them, by destroying their careers, by ensuring they never have the power to hurt anyone else. I nodded to Marcus, who placed another document in front of Tom. This is a legal agreement. Sign it, and this all stays quiet. Try to fight it, and everything becomes public record. Tom picked up the paper with trembling hands. And if I sign, you'll receive a small consulting contract with one of our portfolio companies. Enough to live on, but not enough to have any real influence. You'll work under Caroline Wong's direct supervision. You want me to work for Caroline? He laughed bitterly. The woman I supposedly held back? The woman whose work you stole, I corrected. Consider it poetic justice. He stared at the document for a long moment. You really have become ruthless. No, I've become successful. There's a difference. I handed him a pen. Although I suppose I should thank you. If you hadn't shown me exactly what I was up against in this industry, I might never have built Shadow Valley Ventures. After he signed and left, Marcus gathered the papers. That went well. It's not over, I warned. Men like Tom always try one last desperate move. I was right. 3 days later, he tried to go to the press with a story about how his bitter ex-wife had orchestrated a conspiracy against him. But Shadow Valley's PR team was ready. Instead of his story, the papers ran a different piece. Shadow Valley Ventures reveals founder's identity. Tech CEO Rachel Chen discusses mission to support women in technology. The article detailed Shadow Valley's impressive track record of identifying and supporting female-led tech companies, while also highlighting our efforts to combat discrimination and intellectual property theft in the industry. Tom's accusations were reduced to a single paragraph near the end, accompanied by documentation of his own misdeeds. 1 week later, Caroline called to tell me Tom had shown up for his first day at his new consulting job. He tried mansplaining cloud computing to me, she laughed. I reminded him that I still had copies of my original code, the one he stole 7 years ago. How did he take it? Let's just say he's learning the meaning of too aggressive in meetings. The story might have ended there, but I had one final surprise planned. At Phoenix Technology's next board meeting, I announced a new initiative, a technology incubator specifically designed to support women developers, funded jointly by Phoenix and Shadow Valley Ventures. Its name, Pipe Dreams. When asked about the unusual name in a subsequent interview, I just smiled. Sometimes, I said, the dreams others dismiss as impossible become the very things that change the world. The interviewer mentioned that my ex-husband had once called my ideas pipe dreams. How does it feel to prove him wrong? I didn't just prove him wrong, I corrected her. I built an empire dedicated to ensuring no other woman's dreams are dismissed as easily as mine were. Yesterday, I received an email from a young developer working under Tom in his consulting role. He tried to take credit for my project, she wrote. But Caroline shut him down immediately. For the first time in my career, I feel like my ideas matter. I forwarded the email to Caroline with a single line. Phase 3? Her response came immediately. Already on it. Board meeting next week to discuss expanding Shadow Valley's mission internationally. Tom thought he could come back after 5 years and claim half of what I'd built. Instead, he became an object lesson in why you should never underestimate a woman with a dream, or dismiss her ambitions as impossible. Because sometimes those impossible dreams don't just come true. Sometimes they change the entire game. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.